Jonathan Banks and Darius Slay, is there a better corner duo in college football?
I don't know. There's a lot of good duos out there. A lot of teams got a lot of great corners, but we're pretty lucky. I wouldn't trade those two for anybody else. I mean, great kids and really bought into our program, and it shows on the field.
Darius and I were talking last week about how you recruited him from the beginning, and even when he went to junior college, that you still were making those phone calls. That sense of loyalty that he felt to you, I'm sure you felt the same way for him.
Well, I did, you take guys like that you come out of high school that we really liked. He didn't end up getting the grades, had to go to junior college, and we stuck with him. But he stuck with us and never wavered, and he was always loyal to us, and took care of his business. And that's the biggest thing to me is we're in this to see young men succeed. And he had a different road than some, but he actually followed through and everything, and and he's going to finish off graduating and being a success.
Did you expect him to have the start of the senior season that he did?
Absolutely. Well, we did. The shame for him is he's only ever had one off season, and he showed up in August of his junior year and never had a chance to redshirt, never had a chance to go through an off season until this off season. And he has a lot of great football ahead of him.
Coach, you just talk about what stands out to you most about this Northwestern.
Well, they're their consistency. You watch them. They're two basically Hail Mary plays away from being in the Rose Bowl right now. Really should have won their shot at the conference. And and they play stout on defense. They have a very powerful running game. Even though they do it from the spread and the tempo offense, they can run the football. And they don't make a lot of mistakes. They protect the ball. They cause turnovers. They do all the little things the right way to win football games, and that's what championship teams do.
When you have the SEC schedule that you do, how much does that prepare you for this type of game? Or does it hurt you because...
No, I think the bowl helped. In some ways, our guys have got a couple of weeks to heal up a little bit from, when you play Alabama, A&M, and LSU on consecutive weeks right there, you can get pretty banged up. And but I do think, they've played in the Big Ten, they've played those games, but I think for our guys, the number of quality teams we play in conference every single year and the strength of our schedule, our guys are used to playing in big games where you're going to go play top 25 teams like we're going to do here on January 1st.
Hey, Dan, the Capital One and the Outback Bowl have had an SEC Big Ten tie-in for a long time. The Gator Bowl just started in the last 3 years, but in the next cycle, Rick Cattle's made it absolutely clear that they want SEC Big Ten again. What do you think is the cachet about a game matching the SEC versus the Big Ten? Is it just two of the most traditional conferences? Do you think it just goes back to that?
I think a lot of it. I think for the attraction of the fans is just the tradition that the schools have. Mm-hmm. Not just the quality of teams in the current, but the long-term tradition of the schools, the fan bases of the schools, and how the fans travel at all those schools. I think that makes for exciting matchups when you get to New Year's Day.
And it is always intriguing. I know it might not necessarily be the case this year because the offense is a little similar, but is it usually intriguing to see one style of ball against another style? Is that the fun of bowl games?
Well, I do also think, and you don't see a lot of crossover, playing regular season crossovers between the two conferences. And so I think, I think there comes bragging rights and all those things between the two conferences. And, historically, the two best conferences really in college football. And I think that's what makes it a real fun matchup.
Surprised by Darius Slay's season thus far?
No, not really. We knew he'd have a lot of opportunities to make plays, especially with John Banks playing next to him. He just really seized the moment. He made a lot of plays at opportune times, and so the biggest thing for him is just to see how he finishes up this season. Hopefully, he leaves the SEC interceptions that are being tied.
Is there a better corner duo in college football?
I wouldn't take this one. I wouldn't take anyone else over the two guys we have right now. I believe they're as good as anybody in the country, and they're also better human beings than they are football players. So they're great to work with.
They're operating a little bit with a handicap because the pass rush isn't quite where you wanted it to be this year. They're down in sacks. Does that mean they're covering these guys a little bit longer?
It's a combination of both. We've got to do obviously got to get pressure, but they're married together. We've had great coverage at times during the season. The one thing we've had to develop is that interior guy that can really set the edge. I really feel like we've got two really good edge rushers, Preston Smith and Nico Archer, about 10 and a half sacks between them. But we've really got to get that inside guy to really be a dominant guy for us.
Y'all have had some trouble with mobile quarterbacks, and Kane Coulter, of course, brings that to the table.
Yes, he does.
What do you got to do a little different than maybe you did against A&M or some other teams?
Well, the biggest thing is you got to really control him with not only your front four, but you got to have a guy who's at the second level who can go tackle this guy.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing we learned from the A&M guy. A&M is you got to have a guy who's a second level guy who's designated specifically to tackle this guy. And that's what we've done. We got a guy who's going to know where he's at all the time.
You guys do that with Manziel? Did you have a guy that was always on him?
We had guys. We had guys at times, but we simplified it a lot more. Now it's going to be one guy or two guys that always have him in their vision, and that way we can kind of mix up our looks for him.
We were talking to Tony yesterday just about. We've heard a lot about communication issues in the secondary. Now that Melvin's gone, does that affect things? The players seem to think that they've kind of corrected that back in Starkville these last few weeks.
Well, the thing that you miss, you obviously miss those second set of eyes when you have two secondary. Offenses are so multiple, you need two sets of eyes. But the one thing that you gain is one voice. So now you got one voice communicating the same message over and over, and there's probably a little bit more consistency than there normally would be with two guys back.
Mark, their running back, is a small guy. He's talking today about how it helps him because he gets lost behind those linemen sometimes.
He is very explosive, and he's a home run hitter for them. So we have really got to do a great job of getting off blocks, being physical up front for us to go control this guy.
Even though they're mainly a running team, it's still pretty multiple, and you got two quarterbacks, and Coulter can line up at receiver and do different things.
They're very multiple. And what they do is they keep two quarterbacks on the field at times. Obviously 13 being more of their passing quarterback, and then number 2 being more of their mobile guy as well as a receiver. So you've got to have a simple plan that applies across the board for when both guys are on the field.
I heard you talking a little bit about the middle of the defense. So how big is it to get Josh Boyd going in a game like
that? It's everything. If Josh Boyd runs, we win. If Dwayne Champion runs, we win. And that's how we have to control the run game. There's got to be one up front.
I know the passing game isn't highly rated, but they seem to be fairly efficient when they do throw the ball. Even Coulter has got a good completion percentage.
Well, here's the biggest thing. If you give them too much space, they have a high completion rate. We got to be able to challenge routes and be close on everything and still maintain run integrity.
See you.
Yeah, man. Well, you got to get this mobile quarterback to deal with. Y'all, have had some trouble with that. So
he's a really good player. He does a lot of good things. He's a really good runner. Manages the game really well. He sets the pace of the offense, getting them in and out of formations, getting the plays called. So he's a really good player.
Coach Wilson talked a little bit about simplifying things and having one or two guys designated to be watching that.
Absolutely. We've spent a lot of time on that, and the guy will change, every now and then, but just the big focus of the defense is number 2, number 5, and they've got some good receivers they get the ball to, a big physical offensive line, and they're very well coached. Great fundamentals. They do what they do really, really well, probably as good as anybody in the country. So it's a big challenge for us.
Matt Wells, the guy that would be involved in that.
Matt's always involved. Matt's a really good player. He's had a really good bowl prep. He was one of the guys since he, still, for all intents and purposes, still a young guy. Got a lot of practice work in the developmental period. And he's a kid that can really match up with almost any opponent we play from a speed standpoint and from a size standpoint.
Yeah, I saw during practice, I overheard you talking to Matt saying that this is the time to shine. This is going on Twitter.
Right.
So
who knows what I say at practice? I even have no clue what I'm saying at practice half the time. But the kids seem to respond pretty well to it.
Doing good. Feel good to be back in Florida.
Yeah, how close to home are you?
2.5 hours away, but as y'all already know, my mom up here, so I done went out to eat a few times a week. They hadn't spent too much money. Family cooking for me, so it's been good.
We've been seeing some friends and family too?
Yep. Matter of fact, last night went out with one of my high school coaches. He was up. I got to see his son, see his family, so it's a good experience.
What do you see from this offense, Northwestern? I know they're not a great passing team, but they can do it pretty well when they have to.
Yep. They kind of remind me of our offense about a year ago. They're explosive when they get it going. They got a quarterback. Whenever you got a quarterback that can run and pass, and can play receiver, and then you got number 5 Mark back there running back. Holloway's been giving a great look You know, you out of gap one time, it's a touchdown. You know, and that's the same thing you see on tape. So we got to make sure we fit up the run, and when they throw it, we got to make sure we prevent big balls.
Holloway's been the scout guy for him.
Yep, Holloway has been number 5, and he's giving us a real good look, kind of like when Jameon played Denard Robinson. So hopefully we get the same result when we play.
We talked about communication issues, talking to Banks and Slay. Seem to think that things have been cleaned up a little bit during this last few weeks.
Exactly. That's been our main focus. Every play we want to make sure we're getting hand signals, we're talking, everybody know the play before we get lined up. Because we feel like we're talented enough that nobody should be able to get anything on us once we get lined up. If we know the play, there's no excuse.
Coach Wilson talked about simplifying things a little bit and looking back at that A&M game and realizing that we got to have a guy or two that's always spying on Coulter, the running
exactly.
quarterback.
That's the worst feeling ever. When you look on tape, you see everybody locked up and the quarterback gets away. You know, that really hurts you. It hurts your morale of the defense. You come to the sideline, everybody's like, who man was that? Who man was that? It's the quarterback. You're like, well, we ain't had nobody accountable for him, so we make sure we always got a hat for a hat.
Speaking of those communication issues, and y'all gave up some big pass plays late in the season, I mean, how much do y'all just talk about that and try to figure out amongst yourselves, you know, what do you got to do better?
Honestly, we came in, watched the tape, we broke down the tape, and that was the end of it. We don't talk about it. Of course, it's always in the back of your mind, but when we come to work, everything focused on Northwestern and getting better.
Going for that offense, I know they run a lot, but they can do some different things with 2 quarterbacks and a dual threat quarterback and all that.
Yeah, you know, for the most part, it's been going pretty good. You know, Coach stressed on us a lot about knowing the formations, knowing what they're going to do when one quarterback in, there's the other. So it's been a good process. We're just trying to make sure we got everything on top of it.
Coach Wilson talked about you and Dwayne in the middle. It's going to be on you guys' back to stop the run here in the middle. And how much stress and how much stuff does he put on you guys here and getting ready for the game up in the middle?
I mean, it's always a lot of stress, but you know, it's something that you got to deal with week in and week out playing in this league anyway. So you know what I'm saying? He basically telling us that we need to stay stout, play in the middle, and play the run game well. So if we play the run game well, they have to do other things to do this.
Northwestern.
Brandon Holloway's been the scout team running back for them. Kind of the polar opposite of you guys' defensive tackle as far as size. He's a slippery guy, hard to get a hold on.
Oh man, yeah, he's real fast, really elusive. So he's giving us great looks to get us ready for this game.
Figure out any tricks on how to get someone that small and fast?
Shoot and hope I hit.
Northwestern said they watched a lot of the A&M tape. Do you take some lessons from that game on what you can do better against a mobile quarterback?
Yeah, you have to, because they got a guy like the same type of guy. So I mean, you have to go back and look at that game and see what your mistakes were, and see how you can fix them to get better for this game.
What do you think the main mistakes were in that game?
Just mostly containing the guy. You know, we stay in our rushing lanes, make sure he stays in the pocket so we contain him.
Coach Wilson talked about just simplifying things and learning the lesson that we got to have 1 or 2 guys, you know, watching, you know, the mobile quarterback. How much do you think that'll help going into this and having a few weeks to prepare?
I mean, I think it'll help a lot, because if we can contain this guy and keep him in the pocket where he's got to be a quarterback and throw the ball, it'll help us out a lot.
I can with my ability to try to stop him.
We just think of Big Ten SEC matchups. Everybody gives the SEC the upper hand. A lot of this, the speed and everything. And people make jokes about the Big Ten and vice versa. What do you think of matchups like this in the bowl season?
Well, it really don't get no hype in me. I mean, I watch TV, you know, I watch it and everything, but it's the same thing. It's players as players. I mean, I don't down them, and I'm sure they probably don't down us, but I just go out there and look at them as another team and be prepared for the game.
You're talking about having a couple guys spying the quarterback. How different is it from when you're spying into regular play, when you're just rushing to the ball rather than keeping an eye on him and making sure you're staying?
Well, you know, it's a little different. It's depending on what's the coverage or what's called in the defense. I mean, as long as you know your responsibility, and that should help you out. I mean, everything, as long as you know your job and what you got to do, that should help you out during the play.
Any of that thing where maybe you have to hesitate what you're getting ready to do because you realize your job is the quarterback or anything like that?
Yeah, no, it's no hesitation. I mean, knowing your job, it's gonna click. As soon as everything just gonna click. As long as you know your job, it's gonna click and you should get it done.